And I think we all know those people that when they leave, you just go, I had no idea they did all that. They were amazing. And yet they're often the quiet achievers who do the stuff and you just go, why did the squeaky wheel's over here? I would have done better to not incentivize and placate that person and focus on this person over here. So it's one of the things from big, brutal agency life that I've always maintained is I do sometimes stop, look at the payroll, look at who's on there, experience, and run through the exercise of if someone was to leak this internally, right? Which I don't hold it as a big secret, but what would happen if you exposed the payroll? What would your staff say to you? If you sat there and went, well, what are you paying yourself? Like, how comfortable would you be? It's a really confronting exercise. I think I'd be okay. It's a bit like, this feels a bit like, how would you feel if you accidentally were caught on the front step of your house, locked out and you were naked or in a towel? Kind of like, how do you feel about your body? How would you feel about if your payslip was there? Would your staff feel that that was adequate, more or less? What about the other staff, internal staff? What if these two people found out what they were being paid? I think if you right now pause the podcast, stop the YouTube video, and think about your staff members, if you find yourself in a situation where you wouldn't want two staff members knowing about their pay, you need to really think about what you're going to do over the next few months to make that more reasonable and equitable. Because I do think there's a quiet person in your team that's sitting there, not your team, Jack, but speaking of the figurative, in our team, that might deserve more, that would feel aggrieved if they knew what someone else was getting paid. And that goes from the lowest person all the way to the top. I think at the moment, I would be comfortable. I think at the moment I could look at it and all the staff would look at each other and it would be okay. I was sort of forced to think about this. So a bunch of my in-laws are actors and they're in the theatre, dramatic world. They speak about income at an uncomfortable level. They talk about what they earn in a really open way. Like, you're kind of like, I made this much and this is what I'm getting for an ad. And I'm like, oh my God, don't talk about that. And maybe it comes from the fact that maybe there's something about this nakedness and they're always, getting changed quickly in between scenes or something. I don't know what it is, right? It was explained to me that they have to do that because how else do they know what they should be getting paid? Because they can't compare it to somebody else. And I don't think I've got the management guts to have an open payroll. I've heard about companies who do this, right? I've heard about companies that just have a really open, and I know that government jobs will have pay scales, so people kind of know what you're on. And I'm really warming to that idea, but I think that part of the turnover is that people aren't aware or they have false ideas of what people are earning or, higher or lower. And I do wonder, I know I said at the start, I've got no answers for this, but in talking it through, I do wonder, even if you can't get to transparency, I don't think I can get to transparency, but can you rationally look at it and say to yourself, I think this is fair. I think this is equitable. I'm happy with where these people are at. I would imagine a lot of clients go, so Gerard must be taking all the money for himself. I think most people would be pretty shocked. I think they get an idea in their head that people are making more money than they are. Conversely, I think there's probably some people making some pretty good money. Having worked at a high enough level in group agencies, I got to see enough senior pay packets, and there are scary numbers. It's really scary. Like, there are people, I think when you get to a stage where executives are making 10x the juniors, I think it gets really hard to justify some of that. We're talking here, someone getting paid 50 grand and someone getting paid 500,000. I think it's hard. It's really hard to justify that. And so they're going to want to be very secretive about it. I think it's really important. And I think if you want to resist and fight staff turnover in marketing, I think you want to be able to defend those people and be consistent with your pay and your reviews. Instead of like having someone have to fight for every pay rise, just go, we're working on the basis you're going to get 5% every 6 months or something really simple. They might not get it or they might get more. But I think you've got to be pretty consistent. And if you think of it like redundancies, like if I was ranking those people and I had to like lose X amount of cost, who's the person down the bottom all the time? Not think about cut that person, think about, well, how do I change it? So why are they there? And then how do I change that person? And I think we live in a world where, unfortunately, in marketing and particularly agencies, where staff are your commodity and you have a duty to them to protect them and grow the business around them. But if you can look at it, rationalize that and go, well, who's underperforming the most relative to where they're at, then you get an opportunity to fix it. If you run through that hypothetical exercise, I think you got a chance to fix it. And I think if we could take some of those things into what we did, maybe we wouldn't have agencies running with 50% staff turnover every year. It's not efficient. And I don't think it creates good culture.